Greetings everybody, coming to you from my 2023 Toyota GR Corolla. So I just bought this a few days ago, but I have driven it enough to form some opinions here. Previously, earlier this year, for about 6 months, I owned an Elantra N with the stick shift. So I'm going to give my thoughts about owning the GR Corolla versus owning the Elantra N. So one thing about the GR Corolla is the 3-cylinder engine sound takes some getting used to. I am getting used to it. It actually sounds kind of cool, but it's different. I'm not used to driving a 3-cylinder engine. I've owned cars that have had 4, 5, 6, 8, and 12, and I've driven one with 10, so I've pretty much experienced all the cylinders in each. Each one has its own kind of different exhaust note. I've also owned a couple Subarus, so they have the horizontally opposed engine as well, which also has a different exhaust note, and also inline 6 versus V6, although that's not as significantly different. So anyway, right off the bat, I'm gonna have to give the nod to the GR Corolla. There's some things I don't like about it, but overall, just the connected feel. It's very light on its feet. And the steering actually feels very natural. It's got a really nice steering feel. Now compared to the Elantra N, it also had a good steering feel, but it was a little bit disconnected, a little more disconnected from the road than this one is. And this one just seems to feel better connected to the driver and communicates the road just a little bit better. I mean, they're both good. I actually have to give the nod of seat comfort to the Elantra N, although the GR Corolla is not bad. It's just the seats have a little bit of a weird shape to them, but yeah, overall it's all right. I gotta turn the temperature down a little bit. So as far as the interface goes with the screens and stuff like that, I really am not a big fan of the GR Corolla's interface. It seems very invasive, in terms of privacy. Now, maybe I did something wrong, but I had to basically sign my life away just to be able to get the navigation screen up there. I had to allow it access to my phone, and it's listening to me right now. I have to figure out how to turn that off. So there's just a lot of things. It's very invasive. And then also, I went into the menu to try to figure out how to factory reset it and get rid of all that stuff, and it's grayed out. So yeah, and the other thing is, I was actually trying to film a video this morning of a cold start, and the Toyota app just started taking over my phone. So big miss there. But you know, I can overlook little things like that in relation to the driving experience. The clutch and shifter feel is just spot on. I like the mechanical feel of the shifter. It's very satisfying. The clutch is very predictable, and you know exactly what it's going to do and when it's going to do it. I also particularly like the all-wheel drive in this car. I've got a set of snow tires on the way. It's going to be interesting to see how this thing does in the snow. I will definitely be making some content about that I'll probably have to strap my GoPro on for that, because I'll probably want to have two hands free when I'm doing that kind of stuff. But yeah, this one has the Torsen limited slip differentials as an option. This is the core model. It also has the JBL sound system, which I think that kind of gives that away. Another thing that I really like about this car is you can hear the blow-off valve. Let's see if I can demonstrate that. I'll crack the window. It's not like super loud and intrusive. It just sounds cool. It gives it more of just an overall sporty feeling. I've not had a car before with a turbo that from the factory sounded like that. So that's just a nice little touch to make this more of a driver's car. So now a comment about the exhaust system on this car compared to the Elantra, and I have the right of way here. So this one does not crackle and pop like the Elantra N did. And so although that was pretty cool, it could get extremely loud, like gunshot loud. So it was a little bit much. Now some people may like that. I did to a point, but this one in this car is actually much more visceral. It has a very deep, it's probably got the deepest sounding exhaust note that I've ever heard in a car, and it's kind of amazing that they're able to do that with 3 cylinders. And also they didn't try to isolate out all the NVH, and it actually contributes to a more fun driving experience at certain RPMs. Like for example, you can actually feel the drivetrain vibrating through the car, and that's in no way a negative thing. It's actually a positive thing. It just makes it feel more alive and more connected. So now this one does not have any suspension modes, whereas the Elantra N did. So you could actually turn that into like a comfort mode and have a very relatively soft ride compared to this one. And I actually think this one in its factory setting rides even rougher than the sport setting in the Elantra N, but you get used to it. It's actually not horrible. I have ridden in cars that have ridden rougher and were very uncomfortable, so this doesn't bounce, it doesn't lose its it doesn't get upset going around a turn, hitting bumps. Actually, so side note, when this body style of Toyota Corolla first came out, I test drove an XSE with the manual. I think it was a 2019, and it was actually awful to drive. It was twitchy. It got upset in turns. Needless to say, I didn't buy that. The test drive told me all I needed to know, but this car is night and day different from that. It just inspires driver confidence. I think it's well worth the money. Mine had a sticker.
Welcome to Pennsylvania.
Just under $40,000 with all the options. I think the other options I had, it had some like rubber floor mats or something like that, which I didn't like, so I took all those out. It did not additionally come with carpeted floor mats, which I thought was kind of weird. So I'm gonna have to find a solution for that. All right, let's see here. We're coming to a stop. They have the right of way, so they can go. G6 GTP. Oh, there's somebody behind me, so I can't sit there for very long. Let's do just a quick pull in second gear here. So, power delivery in this car is very, I'm going to use the word peaky. So it pulls all the way up to red line, but there's a couple distinct points where the acceleration increases noticeably. Like, I think there's some turbo lag below 3,000 RPMs, and then it seems like at about 5,000 or slightly over, there's another power boost. So that also makes it more fun to drive than the Elantra N, because the Elantra N had a much more linear power curve. I mean, there was a little bit of turbo lag there. Concentrate pulling out here, but it had such a linear power curve, and to me, something like that takes away from the fun a little bit. I like a peaky power delivery. It just makes a car more exciting to drive. So one kind of ding of this car is there's not a whole lot of places here to put stuff. There's a little thing there for wireless charging for the phone and a couple cup holders, but there's no armrest, there's no cubby. I think there's aftermarket solutions for that. So, you know, if it ends up being an issue, I can always do something about that later. But, you know, just minor nits. This stuff here is high gloss. I think at certain times of year and certain times of day, it could potentially have some glare. The time of year now, with the angle of the sun and all that has not been an issue for me yet. But I have a mental note there to just kind of keep my eyes out for that. And then that comes, it's not really like in the line of sight. And then that over there is pretty shiny for the tweeter, for the stereo. I think this would be a decent road trip car. I think it would, once you get out on the highway, again, you do feel the nuances in the road, but it's not what I would call harsh. I would just call it very firm. You know, again, the Elantra N was great for highway travel because you could just put it into comfort mode and cruise along and not feel as many bumps. But I don't think this one is really a problem. You know, so it's interesting the differences between the two cars. Some of the features one has and the other doesn't. But again, I think for me the all-wheel drive system in this really trumps it, and it leads to one really major difference that makes this so much better to drive. There's a lot of videos about people experiencing wheel hop in the Elantra N with hard acceleration. I think there's some aftermarket things that make it a little bit better, but from the factory, which is how I like to drive my cars, it was awful. And, you know, not only was it unpleasant, but it just also gave the feel like you could break something, like you could break an axle or something like that when it was doing that. The GR Corolla, in huge contrast, I've done hard acceleration starting out in first gear, and it's just perfectly smooth, and no sign of wheel hop or torque steer or anything like that. It's just extremely pleasant to drive this in comparison if you want to accelerate quickly. So that to me really has a lot of weight in terms of fun with the the drive. I could not accelerate hard in first gear in that Elantra N, because every single time, pretty much, maybe 1 out of every 10 times, I might get lucky if it, like the angle and shape of the road is just right, or the temperature of the tires or whatever. I mean, even this thing, again, I have snow tires on the way, but even this thing, I was doing a couple 0 to 60 runs at like 31 degrees on summer tires, still perfectly fine with that. All right, those are all of my thoughts that I can think of off the top of my head. Hopefully you found this useful and enjoyable, and have a great day, everyone.